Okay, so we're live on YouTube. Okay, let's start then.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, 1 second. So, hello everyone, and welcome to Chai Time. In these podcast episodes, we have discussions about the world of AI and tech. I'm your host Alina, and today I'm joined by Adnan. Adnan, welcome to Chai Time. It's great to have you with us.
Happy to be here.
So, the topic of discussion today is a very interesting topic. In this topic, we will be talking about a phenomena called predictive policing. And the title for today's episode is Predictive Policing. Can AI help prevent crimes before they even happen? So, without further ado, let's just dive right into the topic. Adnan, can you tell me how does the concept of predictive policing work, and can you describe it in the context of AI as well?
Oh boy, yeah, it's definitely a very interesting topic, and it's not something like new to at least science fiction. Definitely not something that has been tried in the real world. But if you have seen some of the science fictions which get into the um, nitty gritty of what predictive policing can be, not what it is, but what can be, and what it plays out. Quite a lot of dystopian outcomes is possible. But let's think from the more of the technical side. What would we let's start with a problem statement, because that's an easy thing to think about. What is the problem? Let's say the problem is that crimes do happen, and law enforcement does try to stop them, and in most cases they're not able to stop them, and which leads to the punishment cycle, which is basically you find the criminal, you put them in prison, find them, or whatever else, right? Now, with the predictive policing, the concept will go something like that. Oh, we can forecast if a crime is about to happen,
Yes.
and based on that forecast, um, we go and stop the crime from happening, either through arresting the individual, or taking other measure which will prevent the harm being done before it happens. So that's the, I guess, like the most basic version of predictive policing. How it would play out in AI, if you have, let's say, real-time data coming in, and we're not definitely not even close to being there, but let's say that you have data being streamed, um, about visual data, audio data, and whole sort of other data, and somehow there is this extremely large model that is being um, both in the training and the inference cycle, and it can predict, okay, what is about to happen. And if it says that, oh, a crime is about to happen, you go and stop it, right? Definitely a lot of things there are missing before this can happen, but that's the, I guess, the base version of it.
Okay. And the next question is related to it in the sense that how can AI help in that sense? How can AI predict and stop crimes in predictive policing? How does that work? Does AI read the patterns? Can it know that how, okay, in this specific area, this can happen? Can you explain a bit about that as well?
Okay, so I mean, AI definitely can predict the percentage of, and it's not even AI, right? Seasoned police officer or law enforcement kind of know, based on the data that is available to them, what is likely to happen. So let's say there's a football match going on, right? And after the football match, there are a bunch of fans who are drunk and their team didn't do too well. It's likely that some kind of riot is gonna start. So not something new. AI can um, likely replace that part. It can be on 24-hour watch, and it can at least predict that something is going to happen. But when we talk about, I think I mean that's the short end of it. Like I already talked about, like data being live data being streamed in into a ever learning model, that is audio, video, your CCTV, everything, and it pieces the world together, and it predicts that when something's about to happen. um, so that would be the simplest version. But I guess when we talk about predictive crime prediction, we're likely, or we the most advanced version of that would be when we can pinpoint it to an individual, to say that, okay, this individual is likely to commit a crime in the future, right? And that would be the um, holy grail for law enforcement, or like crime prevention. Not even law enforcement, because law enforcement is more to enforce laws, but crime prevention would be that, oh, you can stop crimes from happening before they happen. So that I think that's where um, the idea of using AI come in. And I have my issues with it, but I'll give the floor back to you before we dive into those.
Okay, so you talked about that how it can, pinpoint an individual for, this individual is more likely to commit a crime. So do you think that it can also cause some sort of unfair profiling, and there could be bias in the algorithms that are used for predictive policing? So do you think that that can also be prevented, or that may happen as well?
um, let's step back a little bit, because um, I didn't say that it can, right? We're definitely not anywhere close to that. And, before we even start thinking about such a thing, we'll have to really reevaluate what exactly is that we're trying to accomplish. So AI, it's technology definitely not there. It's not going to be there
Okay.
for quite a while. And even when that does happen, we'll have to have a serious discussion, um, a worldwide discussion, or wherever this system is to be tried out, is what exactly are we trying to accomplish. So we're right now, what we're talking about is hypothesis, not something that is actually working or something that anybody is even thinking about, right? um, Now you're talking about biases, right? So in the hypothesis, or this hypothetical technology that may predict a crime from happening, may predict a crime being committed, and may pinpoint an individual that may commit that crime. um, Definitely there's a chance, and in fact there is a um, very real danger of profiling. We already seeing in, like systems that are not as dangerous, even from creating images, right? We see all sort of biases
Yes.
being in there, and some of those biases are, of course, just based on the data that is being fed to it. But then there are other artificial biases being introduced by the creators of the system, as we saw recently in the case of one big tech company that put something out there, and it turned out that they have artificially biased it in, against a specific racial um, demographic. And it was not something that was in the data. It was just something that they did because the creator believed that, oh, this is what our political beliefs are, and this is how we want to do it. So, and that's just, we're talking about image creation, right? And there was a big uproar.
Yes.
Now, imagine the same thing happening in terms of a system that can get an individual being arrested. Um, I think a lot of people will have a big problem with that. Similarly, how people have problem when a person does some kind of biased screening of individuals, right? And we see it throughout the world happening, right? And such people are usually in a fair system, kept away from law enforcement or law, any any um, any thing that deals with law. But something that is automatically doing it, that's I think there's a huge risk there, and there needs to be a um, very open conversation about what is it that we're trying to achieve, and incidentally, who is doing it, and what is the guarantee they're providing that it's not gonna be artificially or organically biased.
Okay. And do you think that AI has the ability to, kind of understand the social complexities of crime, or do you think that AI is going to be just like, oversimplify these issues?
Theoretically, yes, right? So we're already seeing a lot of problems that we thought cannot be easily um, solved using computers, right? And we're seeing that giving enough data and enough computing power, such problems um, at least are in the proof of concept stage, that we can see that yes, it can understand complex structures within the data, including social structures, but other complex structure that takes very large teams of engineers to solve and several years of work. So we're seeing that, right? And it wouldn't be too crazy to say that no, this can also happen with the social structures. Um, Again, the problem is not going to be whether it can be done, whether the question is going to be whether it should be done, and what is it that it does that benefits the society.
Okay. And what do you think would happen if we may rely on AI to prevent crimes proactively? And what could be the challenges that may arise, or what could be the limitations to do that as well?
I can probably go on for hours what can happen. So a simple scenario is that, oh, you put something like this in production and it starts predicting crimes, and it predicts crimes, 1,000 crimes in some area that are going to be committed by, and it lists down individuals that are going to be committing those crimes, and those individuals may have a history of doing such crimes, they may not have a history of doing such crimes, but once your name
Yes.
is in the law enforcement files, then it stays there, it doesn't go away, right? So you don't know um, who is looking at you, what are they screening you for, and we're already seeing this happening without um, this kind of predictive AI, right? So AI that doesn't predict real crime, but more like just profiles you on how anti-government you are. So we're already seeing it on Twitter. We're seeing in other social channels that is being used by governments throughout the world. And what that does is that you don't know when you're in the somebody's um, somebody spending tax dollars to track your every movement, and trying to find dirt on you, and everybody has things that they can always be flipped and used in one way or the other, if not directly against them, then at least to defame, to de-amplify, to make life hard for you. So we're already seeing that. Now, if we apply it to actual putting people in jail, um, I think it's going to be very. We'll have to develop a lot of trust before we can even have such a conversation. The other thing that I can, of course, see is politically biased organizations working as government contractors, and artificially adding bias so to target specific people or specific demographics that they don't like, or they want to penalize for one reason or the other. Other thing I can see is such a system being used as a more of a product in which you can buy your way out, or avoid crime, avoid being targeted by paying some kind of monthly fee, right? And of course, I know that a lot of big techs would love that kind of idea, right, where you, in order to stay um, out of these files, you pay something to stay. And it's already a thing, right? Like, when you're going on the airport, you already see these special queues for people who are paying some monthly fee for to avoid the normal security queues. So a lot of problems that I see, um, that can go there, that can really not lead to the positive outcome.
Okay. So we're talking about this hypothesis, right? And let's just say that there is an AI model that has been created that can prevent the crimes efficiently, and it does work well. So do you think that there would come a point that it won't need human collaboration and it would just steer it on its own, or would it be something that humans would need to handle at the end?
If something does happen, and you can get to that point, there always needs to be a human screening, right? Because at the end, we have to understand what crimes are exactly, and what um, does crime prevention actually mean, right? Crimes are not some fixed things, right? It's simply like, it can be any behavior that may or may not be considered against the social norms. It may be something that does harm people, but in other cases it may be something that does not harm people, such as, let's say, would you like to be, so let's come up with a concrete example. Would you like to be predictively given a traffic ticket because a model predicts that you're going to be going over speed limit tomorrow? Would it be
No,
okay with
I
you?
wouldn't. No, not
Why
at all.
not?
Because the model doesn't know if I'm going to. It just predicted it, but it might not be happening
It might be very
appropriately.
accurate, it might be past all the benchmarks or all the things, right? So that's exactly what I'm talking about. We think about, like, it's going to prevent murders, but in real world, murders happen seldom outside of gang fights, right? Most of the crimes that are we are penalized for are um, attached to some kind of financial penalty, not really um, jail time. And that, we already know that, as most countries and most counties have a quota of traffic tickets that they have to issue in order to keep their revenue going. And that's let's say that you data simply to an AI model and say, okay, we need to issue these many tickets, right? And then you suddenly see these money being deducted from your bank account because a model predicted that you are likely to violate, um, or you were likely to park in an undesignated spot or whatever, right? Nobody wants that, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I'm just talking about crimes that don't have a real victim. Now if we talk about a crime that do have a real victim, that thing get even worse, right? Because let's say that, in order to um, let's say that you are put in, or you are arrested based on a prediction of model tomorrow, because the model says that, oh, you're going to go and physically assault this person, and the person
Okay.
who was going to be being assaulted doesn't even know that was going to happen, or something as predicted. In most cases it will be just you getting arrested and put in house custody, or in worst cases in a jail, that you are going to commit that crime. Would you like that to happen?
No, not at all.
Right. So this is simply because you can't, the bigger problem is that you can't actually go and argue, or talk about your track record or any of this thing again with an AI model, right? Because an AI model is tireless, it doesn't have any emotion, it doesn't have any um, judge of characters, it's just operating on a data. Whereas with a human, you can argue a lot of things. You can show them that you haven't done any such thing. And in most cases, humans are not humans don't arbitrarily based purely based on the data take actions. They actually need to see some physical evidence before they take action, right? So
Yes.
yeah, that's what I would say. I think that's not something that most people, once they realize the entire scenario, would agree with, right? You can
Yes.
hypothetically think about it, but practically, if you say that, okay, here is a model that is gonna fine you a traffic ticket tomorrow for tomorrow. Are you okay with that? And instantly your opinion will not exactly be in favor. So yeah.
Yes, and I also think that if it comes to activities like illegal activities, as in drug abuse or drug trafficking, these sort of things, if an AI model would predict that or prevent that from happening, that is something that most humans could be okay with. But when it comes to things like that, when you put it in a scenario like that, I think so that is something that won't be.
So again, the same thing comes down to it, right? Let's say that we're talking about traffic ticket. Let's say that the an AI model predicts that you're going to be buying some illegal substance from a dealer somewhere in your neighborhood, right?
Okay.
And you get arrested for that. Again, same thing, right? You don't know what the criteria for that is. You don't know what the data is led to it. You don't know if the data was, how biased the data was, if it's like some kind of fluke or etc. Right? In most cases, um, you would not be okay with it, right? Again, when we think about crime prevention, we're often thinking about this hypothetical actor which we have never met, we have never interacted with, but we have heard about in newspaper or in media, right? And
Yes.
in many cases those actors are fictional, they are not real, right? Because real people often are very different. They are not as black and gray, black and
Okay.
white as people believe, right? Often the same person can change, they can completely turn on their life, and you don't know what is going to lead to it. And that's the reason, right? And we can talk about a little about what crimes actually are, right? We don't
Yes.
penalize people um, for thinking of a crime. We penalize people when there is an actual physical harm being done, and that's the only thing that we are supposed to prevent. And there's nothing else. Um, and the way to prevent prevention is not to penalize people on hypothetical crimes, but rather after something happens, we go and then penalize them. So in the future, anybody who's thinking of getting away with it thinks twice. That's the um, method that is not foolproof, that doesn't always work, but it does work to a satisfactory level to keep the order. That's what I would say.
Okay. And those are all the questions that we had for today. And before we wrap up, Adnan, do you have any more insights that you would like to share about the topic?
I think I already said, but final, like if you haven't seen, like do watch some of the my favorite Wi-Fi sci-fi. I don't know why I said Wi-Fi, but sci-fi. And one of the favorite one is Minority Report. It is about a future in which, due to there is an experiment being run where, and it's not about AI. It's about humans who can predict crime in the future, like kind of seers. But it can apply equally well to an AI that can predict something similar, which leads to innocents being punished for crime that they may or may not have committed, right? Because we don't know until something happens whether it was going to happen. There is no, there can be a chance, but there can always be that, okay, that person is not going to do it, right? So that's one of my favorite sci-fi. Should watch that. And um, yeah.
Okay. And thank you so much, Adnan, for giving us your insights and your opinions on this topic. It was a great discussion. And thank you so much to everybody who has tuned in. We will catch you guys next week. And the next week's episode is going to be really interesting. And you guys should watch the pre-sale, which is live on our website as well. So thank you so much, everybody, and until next week, stay happy and bye bye, everybody.
All right, have a great week.